All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Julia Roberts confirms exactly what Steven Spielberg did with Epstein. All right. Let's go check this out immediately, guys.
I find quite confused in his recollection of me. If I know more about, him and his life and Amy Irving and what have you, than I probably said about my own life.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be.
Nobody talks about.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah.
Actress Julia Roberts has stirred the hornet's nest once again, reviving her long-standing feud.
And guys, I did not censor that. I honestly have no idea what they're talking about.
With Steven Spielberg. This time, the Pretty Woman actress has purportedly made some startling revelations that could prove problematic for her longtime nemesis. Y'all would remember that back in January this year, a court in Manhattan released a list of people connected with Jeffrey Epstein.
Newly released court documents relating to the Jeffrey Epstein. They include associates, friends, and alleged victims of the disgraced billionaire who died in jail 5 years ago.
During that time, rumors were rife that Steven Spielberg was on the list along with several notable individuals. Well, the rumors divided the internet, as many fans felt Steven Spielberg wouldn't stoop so low to get involved with Jeffrey's many scandals.
Right, I mean, hearing his name, I thought he was one of the good guys. Right? So why would he deal with someone as absolutely terrible as Epstein? But also at the same time, did every single person that has dealt with him known about his proclivities? Guys, I think that's probably the number one question here. I mean, yeah, I need that answer.
Others also argued that Spielberg was no angel and that he had it in him to do exactly what he was being accused of. The arguments raged on for days and eventually expired as people got tired of debating until recently when Julia Roberts reportedly decided to wade into the conversation. She revealed what many fans had been suspecting all along, and boy, it was extremely shocking. What did Julia Roberts say about Steven Spielberg, and how does it all tie into the long-standing feud between the two leading Hollywood lights? I have all the juice right here, so let's get into it.
Right, I know more about, him and his life and Amy Irving and what have you than I probably said about my own life.
Julia Roberts and Steven Spielberg are the real definition of not seeing eye to eye. These two have been at each other's necks since shooting for the hit movie Hook wrapped up in the late 80s. Spielberg had bitterly complained about Roberts' attitude during filming, claiming that the actress was often unprofessional and had difficulty following directions. At the time, Roberts was going through a difficult time during a torrid relationship with her co-star, Kiefer Sutherland. The two stars, who met on a previous set, were engaged and set to be married a day after filming for Hook ended. However, things took a turn for the worse when Roberts caught Kiefer cheating and broke off the engagement.
It wasn't what she wanted to do in the end. And I think it took a lot of courage, in amongst all of that other stuff, to be able to say, I can't do this.
Spielberg observed that Roberts' tumultuous relationship with Kiefer was affecting her attitude towards work.
It sounds like he just said that it took a lot of courage for her to cheat on him. That's what it sounded like. Okay, that's interesting. Either way, so Amy Irving. Amy Irving is the ex-wife of Steven Spielberg, carries one of his children, guys. Max Spielberg. Let's continue.
And he mentioned it in an interview with 60 Minutes. It was an unfortunate time for us to work together, he told the media outlet. Roberts got hurt by Spielberg's words because apparently she had shared her feelings with him while on set and had put on her best behavior. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Roberts lambasted Spielberg for refusing to defend her in the face of allegations that she was difficult to work with. She explained that Spielberg really hurt her feelings when he said that and even called him a turncoat. She told the magazine, "I couldn't believe this person that I knew and trusted was actually hesitating to come to my defense. It was the first time that I felt I had a turncoat in my midst." She also granted an interview in which she claimed that Spielberg had vague and unreliable recollection of what actually transpired on the movie set in the late 1980s.
Steven Spielberg, I find quite confused in his recollection of me.
So given the spicy relationship between these two Hollywood...
What is that? A apologies, had to assassinate a spider.
Giants, it was only a matter of time before Roberts was asked what she thought about Steven Spielberg's name on the purported Epstein list. We all know journalists are always searching for fodder for their news feeds and won't hesitate to milk a certain situation, or in this case, a relationship to their advantage. So when Spielberg's name came up, they ran to Roberts for a soundbite, and she seemingly didn't disappoint. Apparently, Spielberg harbored dark and disturbing passions that were creepier than what we usually see in his movies.
Dark and disturbing passions?
I'm not even going to talk about Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is a...
Recently, documents from the filming of Indiana Jones have resurfaced, and the details are alarming. They show Steven Spielberg in a pre-production meeting with his friends George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan, discussing the formation of the character Indiana Jones, and it appears there's a creepy side to it. The discussion details how an 11-year-old female character met with and fell in love with the titular character, Indiana Jones.
I was thinking that this old guy could have been his mentor. He could have known this little girl when she was just a kid, had an affair with her when she was 11. Lauren said, and he was 42.
The three men went back and forth over the matter, with one suggesting that the girl should rather be the one throwing herself at Jones than the other way round. They even considered bumping up the age to around 15 years, but not further than that, or the story could lose its edge. They explained that 15 was the best age to peg the girl, and that when
Peg the girl? What's happening here?
when she last met Indiana Jones, she came on strongly to him, and the two engaged their carnal desires. Now, many fans felt disgusted just by learning how seemingly twisted and vile Spielberg and his friends were during the pre-production of Indiana Jones. They couldn't fathom how grown men would think that making a young female character sleep with an older guy would make the movie edgier. But then again, this is Hollywood, a place where the nastiest of incidents and events took place. A place where the elite and gatekeepers of the industry took advantage of young, hungry talents to satisfy their creepy desires. When
that's one way to put it.
Fans discovered this hair-raising detail from Indiana Jones, this was their reaction.
15-year-old in a relationship with a 27-year-old.
Now, some fans believe that it is just art and that it has nothing to do with the real lives of these men, which could be true. But again, films are often reflections of society, so it is possible that the men, including Spielberg, were into some weird stuff and translated it into film.
How about this here, guys? Based off what I just heard right here, I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb here and say that that is a reach. I think it's a reach. The narrator is currently reaching, but I can see how that can be correlated, and some people could think that that's generally the case. Art generally represents life, right? But in this instance, that may be a stretch. They're reaching really far, but let's continue.
If you think that Spielberg's fascination with making young characters sleep with older ones was a one-off incident, then think again. It was recently revealed that during the filming of Jurassic Park, the celebrated actor often cuddled with the star of the show, Ariana Richards. According to unconfirmed sources, Spielberg sent away Richards' caregiver to be alone with the girl, narrating how it all happened. The source claimed that it all started one night when Spielberg went into Richards' hotel room under the pretext of going over some lines with her. He then sent the caregiver out of the room so that he could be alone with the young lady. The source claims that Spielberg then forced her into several compromising situations that affected her psyche. Sadly, that night was the first of many weird nights to come.
Okay, strike what I said from the record. Strike it from the record, guys.
As the Spielberg allegedly took advantage of the hapless Richards. The source continued that Ariana Richards has undergone therapy for years and doesn't ever want to talk about the movie or grant an interview to discuss it. Ariana allegedly doesn't want to get involved in any tribute regarding Spielberg and has shunned the limelight for good. It isn't surprising that after Jurassic Park, she starred in 4 more movies before completely turning her back on Hollywood, never to return again. Today, she's a painter who enjoys her time expressing herself through drawings. Maybe that was her saving grace in therapy.
Okay. I get really inspired to paint portraiture, I would say, is my very favorite thing.
Ariana has resigned from acting to run away from the purported years of mistreatment at the hands of gatekeepers who should have known and acted better. One such gatekeeper was Polish film director Roman Polanski, who is interestingly a buddy of Spielberg. Now, this isn't a guilty by association witch hunt, but we can't also rule out the fact that birds of...
It kind of sounds like it, though. I'm still trying to get the actual connection, right, between Spielberg and Epstein, other than the fact that they've known each other. So the way you're correlating, directing it towards a narrator at least, the way you're correlating these people, it is purely guilty by association. So by the same definition, Roman Polanski should be named also then, right? But let's continue.
Of the same feather flock together. Polanski, like Spielberg, has a storied history of inappropriately touching and forcing himself on young ladies. His first victim was the then 13-year-old model Samantha Gailey, who
guys, I'm just going to stop talking because
modeled for Vogue in 1977. The incident occurred in the jacuzzi in the home of Jack Nicholson, another offender. According to Samantha, she was doing video shoots for Vogue when Polanski offered to get into a jacuzzi with her.
Yeah, when he wanted to get into jacuzzi, I knew I was in trouble. Like, wait, this is not what he's supposed to be doing.
Polanski was arrested and charged with 6 counts of criminal activity, including forcing himself on a schoolgirl. During his court case, the celebrated director pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges. And the saddest part was that all the Hollywood executives came to his defense. At the time, it didn't occur to most people why Polanski's colleagues would come to his rescue. However, given what we know now about the dark side of Hollywood, many fans now understand why Hollywood execs were running over each other to defend their colleague. Polanski's lawyer managed to negotiate a plea bargain in which the disgraced movie director pleaded guilty to only 1 count of the charge. His plea bargain included being sentenced to 42 days in prison and getting a psychiatric evaluation, which seemed too small compared to the damage he had visited on Samantha.
That's the moment. Then I realized something was wrong. I was frightened. I didn't know what to do. And I just knew then, it was like, oh, this guy, like, he wants to get his hands on me. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
Later, fans learned that the judge had planned to hand Polanski a 50-year sentence for his crime, but had to change his mind when Gailey's lawyer came to see him in his chambers. The lawyer told journalists he was going to sentence Polanski, rather than to time served, to 50 years. What the judge did was outrageous. We had agreed to a plea bargain, and the judge had approved it. However, Polanski got wind of the fact that the judge couldn't be trusted to hold his end of the plea bargain and could likely sentence him to the 50 years he proposed earlier. So, the veteran director hatched a plan. He told his friend he was getting out of the country, and a day before his sentencing, he fled to London and then to France, where he's been living all his life.
Roman Polanski.
Wasn't that like a saying or like an idiom? London, France, underpants? Something like that, guys. I'm not a child any longer. I forget childish things, right? But I'm almost positive that these things have something to do with each other in some way. Like an idiom or something. Help me on the comments.
He got caught and he fled the country to avoid persecution. That's what happened. And he's been a fugitive ever since.
Many fans don't find it surprising then that Spielberg was accused of a similar offense many years later. I mean, this is a man who has been going skiing and vacationing with Polanski. Remember Spielberg's pre-production meeting with 2 other men that resulted in creating a 15-year-old female character sleeping with an older male character? Well, it isn't too coincidental then that a movie director actually forces himself on a young lady in real life. After all, as I said earlier, movies mirror real life, and directors often cast their fantasies onto the movies they work on. So fans believe that sleeping with young ladies was probably a thing around the time, and most movie directors or executives were involved in the act, like when Thandie Newton shared how she was objectified as a lady on a casting couch.
I found when I was a 16-year-old, fresh from boarding.
Bro, is she British? What?
School, going out into, on the casting couch, I was definitely objectified to an extreme.
Though Spielberg wasn't directly accused of mistreating Ariana, one person who was bold enough to take the bull by the horns and call a spade was Crispin Glover. The actor who played George McFly in the movie Back to the Future made some damning allegations against Spielberg, which some fans believe to be true. In 2003, Crispin published a book titled What Is It?, which provided the text for the movie of the same name. In the book, he claimed that Spielberg's penchant for depicting small boys in compromising situations could suggest that he was into boys. Now, this is what fans have been saying for some time now. It's like these directors love to project their fantasies onto the movies they worked on, but in a disguised way.
Oh, like Tarantino and feet. Right, listen, feet are some of the most disgusting things on this planet. All right, they touch the ground, and then some individuals decide that it's going to be a great idea to put them in their mouths. It's weird, right? And I'm absolutely guessing that may be the case based off of some of the Tarantino movies that I've seen, recently at least. Right? Obsession with feet and weirdness.
Like this 1985 movie based on a story by Steven Spielberg.
Oh my God!
Here, a boy seems to be reattaching the broken pecker of a statue to its original place, with an expression that has suggestive undertones. Many fans questioned why of all the places. It was the pecker of the statue that got broken. They wondered why these children would be subjected to these kinds of depictions when there were several ways to elicit laughter from the audience. So you see why Glover would have a problem with Spielberg's alleged obsession with portraying boys in funny ways? Check out his clip where one of the boys had the pecker in his mouth, of all places, after it had broken off the statue.
Yo, what is this?
It's not broken!
In hindsight, many fans who didn't find the clip disgusting now do so because of people like Crispin Glover, who are bent on shining a light on the dark side of Hollywood. A section of his book read, "Does Steven Spielberg focus much of his fantasy life on young people? Did he portray children wallowing in sewers filled with fecal matter in Schindler's List? Did he use children to finger paint an adult in Hook?" He even threw Michael Jackson into the mix and added, "Was Steven Spielberg very friendly with Michael Jackson? Wasn't Michael Jackson supposed to play Peter Pan in Steven Spielberg's version of the story? Now that Michael Jackson is no longer held in favor by the mass media, does Spielberg associate with him? Do Michael Jackson and Steven Spielberg share similar opinions about the S of young boys? Now y'all know how to spot a coded message when you see one." Many fans believe that Crispin's message was coded in rhetorical questions to avoid lawsuits from his intended targets. They suspect that the Back to the Future actor was sending a message about the ills that went on in the movie industry. Having been a part of the industry for many years, he might have seen several things that could have shocked him to the bone. The only way he knew to fight the system was to expose it, and he did, albeit in a subtle form to avoid repercussions. As usual, he was labeled as a confused, unstable man who desired to go against the norms of society. Fortunately, Crispin isn't the only industry veteran to have spoken out about the treatment of boys in the industry.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be.
Nobody talks about.
It's the big secret.
It's still a big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah.
That was former child actor Corey Feldman outing the big Hollywood secret that the executives are trying to keep under wraps. Since 2011, he and his late friend Corey Haim have been waging a war to make Hollywood safer for children and young men, having been a victim himself. He explained that as a young man in the entertainment industry, he was forced into certain situations he rather wouldn't be in. To make matters worse, his oppressors were industry elites who probably had been doing this for years without facing any repercussions. Explaining how the operate, Feldman claims that they put fear in you so much that you dread spilling the beans. When asked why he didn't report those incidents at the time, Feldman explained that he was scared.
You freeze. You're in shock. I mean, children aren't supposed to handle that sort of stuff.
And here is where it all gets bizarre and sad. The veteran actor explained that people who often took advantage of the young lads were often close friends or associates. In his own situation, his were people whom he thought were friends and would look out for him. He admired them, looked up to them, and trusted them, but they ended up betraying his trust. They took advantage of their closeness to him to visit some of the worst atrocities on him.
The two people that did it to me were both close friends of mine. Or so I thought.
According to Feldman, his late friend Corey Haim endured worse things than him. In his book, Choreography, the former child star narrated how one man forcibly slept with Corey Haim on the set of the 1986 movie Lucas. He explained that a lot of people knew about the story, but wouldn't do anything to help the boys, probably out of fear that they might not be believed, thus empowering their to continue their dastardly act. This explains why many of the perpetrators appear to get away with their crimes, because there's no one to hold them responsible.
They're still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
Oftentimes, it takes a long time for the victims to gather the courage to speak up against such acts, but it would have been too late by then. The perpetrators would have been old, fragile, and weak by then, having destroyed so many lives. This is why people like Ariana Grande and Jennifer Lawrence argue that immediate steps be taken to safeguard people who work in Hollywood. Jennifer Lawrence argues that if we could create a safe place for animals during filming, we should be able to do the same for humans who work in environments as toxic as Hollywood. She thought that it was better to prevent such cases from happening than to sit behind our TVs years from now and hope that it never happened.
I mean, there's protections for animals, in filming. I think there need to be protections legally put in place to protect people when they're filming, human beings.
Fans couldn't agree more with Lawrence because if Hollywood can protect animals in its domain, then it should do more for kids who work there. However, fans noted that one more disturbing trend needed to be tackled to encourage victims to speak up. Stop stigmatizing the people who speak about such situations. Many times, the victims are already weighed down by guilt, so it doesn't help matters when the public stigmatizes them. This usually happens when the perpetrator is a public figure and wealthy. Sometimes these perps spin the story to make it look like the victims are the criminals who are trying to shake some money off of them. Unfortunately, the public tends to believe such narration and jump to the defense of the and before long, the matter is swept under the carpet. A typical example is when Diddy accused Cassie of wanting money after she had sued him for SA&R in a New York court. However, when Diddy realized his trick wasn't working, he swiftly settled out of court with Cassie for an undisclosed sum of money.
Yeah, we see how that has gone.
He filed it on Thursday, and just over 24 hours later, they settled.
Yeah, court of public opinion.
And they both say that they have settled it amicably.
However, unlike Diddy, Spielberg has yet to be sued in court for his alleged crimes. Sources in Hollywood claim that many people whisper behind closed doors about his alleged crimes, but none has had the courage to sue him. However, with his name on the Epstein list and with what we know about him so far, it is only a matter of time before somebody steps up to the bat and takes the by the horns. People, especially kids, need to be protected from elites who take advantage of their innocence to inflict trauma that could haunt these kids for the rest of their lives. On this note, we draw the curtains for today's video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
All right, guys, really quickly. Back up a little bit. Initially, I'm like, okay, listen, this has to be some type like hearsay, right? Until things started piling on, I think this video made a very good case for there may be something absolutely awkward happening. And specifically if he's like close buddies with Roman Polanski, apparently, and he almost got 50 years in prison for doing something to a youngin', right? A little weird, guys, right? It all comes together as a nice package that is absolutely insane. Now, do we need something where we can protect people the same way as animals, as Jennifer Lawrence stated? Yeah, but as long as it's not abused, I would say, right? As long as that is, in fact, not something that someone, let's say, is mad they didn't get a part and now they're saying something crazy, right? As long as that's not the thing, right? I would say lie detector every single person, if that can be done, at least, right? Find a way you can actually get the truth before you attempt to destroy someone's career over you not getting a part, let's say, right? That would basically be my biggest kind of gripe with that, and that along with the Me Too movement, basically, right? Before you destroy someone's career, make sure it's true, right? And if it goes public, that's a problem, right? But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.